Retirement seems to be the goal that everybody is aiming for, and it also seems to be more and more elusive as the cost of living continues to creep up while wages do not. There are actually 10 big changes that are going to happen in your life once you retire that a lot of people might not be prepared for. And I thought it'd be interesting to go over this because some of these changes are positive and some of them not so much. The first one is your morning alarm. That is going to be a thing of the past unless you want to continue to use it voluntarily, but man, that's something I actually gave up on a long time ago and I don't miss it at all, waking up to an alarm clock. So that means no rushing out the door when you're half asleep. It means no more just shoving down your breakfast just to get out, make sure you're not late to work. It means you can take your time, get out of bed, do a morning routine that you prefer to do, and not have to constantly be in a rush in the morning unless you're one of those lucky people that is just a morning person and gets up at 5 a.m. naturally. You know, sometimes I wish I could be that person, but that is just not me. The second thing you can say goodbye to in retirement is your boss and the deadlines that they impose on you. Retirement means now that you don't have to answer to anyone except for your wife or your husband. No more emails from your boss on the days that you're not working. Your stress levels will probably go down quite a bit as you settle into your newly retired life, and things will begin to slow down. And you'll be able to appreciate the smaller things in life. And I never had good luck with bosses anywhere. My wife is the opposite, but it's like, yeah, okay, a beautiful woman. Of course, every boss you've ever had has been really nice to you. But me, on the other hand, haven't had that same experience as her. And actually, that was one of the things that prompted me to want to work for myself because I just could never really get along with management. The third thing that goes away in retirement, though, that is related to your job is workplace socializing and the friendships that you had at work. And we've kind of gone over this in some past retirement videos, and this can be a blessing or a curse. Like, for example, if you hate the people you work with, you're probably happy you're never going to have to see them again. On the other hand, if you've made some lasting friendships at work, it might kind of suck not seeing them every day anymore, and you're going to have to make an effort to see them outside of work if you want to keep that friendship going. Number 4 is a big one. Your commute is going to disappear. No more sitting through rush hour traffic to and from work. Those days are over. And they say that the average American spends about 25 minutes commuting one way. So you're getting back about an hour of your day each and every day. In fact, my mom used to commute to work about 45 minutes one way. So that's an hour and a half each day in the car. And I remember I added it up one time whenever I was just thinking about all of the years she was working at this job and commuting there. And it added up to 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, of her life that she's actually spent just driving back and forth to work, which is just mind-blowing when you think about those kind of stats. So getting that kind of time back in retirement is huge. This is going to give you more time to do things that you've always wanted to do, maybe start that new hobby or activity, or just having that extra time to relax that you didn't have before. The fifth thing is that your weekly routine as you know it is going to be completely disrupted. You are going to have to find new things to do to fill up your week because you're no longer going to have that same schedule. You don't have to get up to that alarm clock. You don't have to rush out the door to work. You don't have that 9 to 5 grind anymore. Not everybody works 9 to 5s, I realize, but people have pretty consistent schedules when it comes to work. And now that all of that is kind of over with, it's going to be up to you to make that schedule and fill it up with fulfilling activities for your life. Number 6 is something I don't really think about much, considering that my work uniform is what you see me wearing right now, shorts and a tank top. You guys know me by this. But if you're working a regular job, your work wardrobe is something of the past. You no longer have to wear that uniform. You no longer have to dress up in the monkey suit if that's something that you had to do. You no longer have to wear scrubs if you're working at a medical facility. That doesn't sound good. Electric vehicle. Now, of course, you can still dress however you want in retirement, and if you miss dressing up every day, you can do it just for the hell of it, just to feel good about yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and feel put together. But I think that will fade for a lot of people over time, especially as you settle into your new routine and find new things that you like to do. Number 7 is one I'm sure a lot of people don't think about, but those daily mental challenges that you have at work are now no longer. So it's kind of going to be up to you to create new mental challenges on your own, because you actually need that mental challenge each day in order to keep yourself sharp. You need to have some sort of daily mental stimulation. And in retirement, this could be something like learning a new language or a new skill, or staying engaged in social activities that's going to keep your mind sharp. Me personally, I enjoy playing guitar, and whenever it feels like it's too easy, or I'm just like kind of playing without even thinking about it, it's time to learn a new song. I have to challenge my mind and figure something new out. Same thing goes for playing a video game, like you can challenge yourself and play the hardest setting on a video game, which is something I like to do. Not everybody likes video games, but you get the idea. You're doing something to push your mental acuity to the maximum, and that will keep you sharp in your older years. Maybe you like to do a crossword puzzle, or maybe you like to just read the newspaper and stay up on what's going on and keep yourself informed. I've seen a lot of these Amazon trucks doing deliveries. I've never heard one with this crazy noise. Doesn't sound too good. The eighth thing that you might miss in retirement is company perks. No more free coffee, no more employer-sponsored gym memberships, no more health insurance by your employer, which could end up meaning more out-of-pocket expenses for you in retirement. And this can actually be a downside, especially if you got used to all of those perks, because if you're retiring on a fixed income and you're already kind of feeling a little stretched thin, then having any of these extras that you maybe used to get for free may no longer be an option, or may take too big of a chunk out of your budget. And this is probably why we see so many people who are retired having to go back to work and have to get a part-time job in order to be able to make ends meet, because it turns out that Social Security income and the retirement savings just isn't enough to make it anymore. The ninth thing you're giving up is a sense of your professional identity. Once you leave your job, you're going to be giving up that part of your identity. Sometimes people can work so long at a job that they kind of forget who they are without the job, and it kind of removes a part of your personal identity, which is why it's so important to do all the other things that we already talked about and kind of create a new life for yourself in retirement, and even start planning that out before you are retired, because some people don't take that so well, especially if they were very successful at what they did and they really enjoyed their job and they really had a lot of fun and they made a lot of friends at their workplace. This can be removing a huge positive part of your life. So it's up to you to create that in retirement yourself. And the 10th thing that disappears is work-related travel, which can be a positive or a negative. Some people enjoyed, being on the road and traveling for their job. Especially, imagine if you're somebody like a flight attendant, for example. You're traveling all over the country or all over the world on a weekly or monthly basis, and now all of a sudden you're kind of stuck at home. That's a pretty big adjustment that you have to get used to. And if you are somebody who is going to be retiring, you might want to start thinking about how much money you're going to need in retirement. And I found an interesting article that goes over the average amount of money that retired people spend per month, so that way you can kind of gauge, are you currently on track to have enough savings once you actually do retire? According to the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they say that the average retired person will spend about $5,000 per month in retirement, and that's based on data that was collected in 2023. This includes things like housing, your property taxes, your utilities, your mortgage, if you have one, the maintenance of your home, healthcare, things like prescription drugs, co-pays, long-term care, food, and transportation. Now, we've kind of gone over some of these stats before about where people are at with their savings, and I would say it's pretty safe to say that most people are nowhere near on track where they need to be, because the most current data shows that people between 60 and 69 years old have about $210,000 saved in their 401k, and that's the median balance, okay? The average balance is up to $573,000 saved in your 401k. Remember, the difference between median and average is pretty significant, because median is right in the middle. So that's the middle ground, the middle of the road of what most people have saved. The averages get skewed pretty heavily for people that have a lot more saved for retirement versus others. And so even if we just take those numbers right there, if the average retired person is spending $60,000 a year in retirement, $5,000 a month, and people only have $210,000 saved for retirement, how long is that going to last you guys? We're talking 4 years at best. Maybe 5 if you're able to stretch it out more than that, and you don't need $5,000 a month, and you can still kind of keep compounding those savings a little bit for a couple of years. But realistically, 4 or 5 years worth of savings in retirement, what is that going to do for people? And it's when I hear stories like this that makes me think that I'm pretty sure that most people are never going to be able to retire. A lot of people are chasing this dream of retirement, and it's one thing if you're already right around the corner and you're almost there and you've planned for it and you're going to make it. But it's a whole nother story for people who are kind of far away from it right now and have nothing saved for retirement and are not able to save any of their income due to the high cost of living. Or even if you're somebody who's planning on retiring soon, and say you fall into this category where you only have a couple $100,000 saved, what is your plan? What are you going to do? Yeah, you're going to get Social Security, but the average Social Security benefit's not even $2,000 a month. That's not even enough to pay for half of the average retired person's expenses. The only thing you can really do to mitigate this is to try to ramp up your retirement savings as you get closer. Because, for example, as of 2025, if you are 50 years old or older, you can ramp up your retirement savings in your 401k up to $31,000 annually, assuming you have that extra $31K to throw into your retirement account. And then, of course, you can save an extra $7,000 a year in a Roth IRA, for example. You can also increase your Social Security benefits by postponing retiring altogether and delaying how long you're going to take before you start taking your Social Security money. But really, those are all just kind of small hacks, if you ask me. None of those things are really going to bring you up to speed for, a long retired life. You might be able to squeeze a few extra years out of your 401k savings or get an extra $200, $300, $400 a month from Social Security, but none of that is going to be life-changing, which is why it's so important to plan ahead of time. In fact, Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, recently came out and said that the retirement ages need to be shifted in order to align with our modern reality, because the estimated amount of money that people need to retire has increased substantially over the past couple of decades. And a lot of Americans are now estimating that they would need $2 million saved for retirement in order to retire comfortably. Well, we just went over that people who are between 60 and 70 only have 10% of that saved, guys, not even close. The average American, people who are not that close to retirement, or just the average in general, has $87,000 saved for retirement, and 33% of Americans have no retirement savings at all. So the odds of people getting to that $2 million mark is only going to be achieved by a very small percentage of people who really have the income and the discipline to get there. So Larry thinks that we should be extending the retirement age to a higher age, especially now that people live longer, and 65 should no longer be the gold standard for retirement age. We should be extending that. And I think the real reason that we need to extend it is because people have to, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. But it turns out that 80% of Americans believe that Congress should be helping Americans plan and save for a stable retirement. They say with Americans living longer than ever, lawmakers must prioritize policy that supports personal savings. Now, I'd have no idea what Congress can actually do to help people save more for retirement, guys, because the reality is the biggest thing that used to help people retire that really no longer exists, except for the lucky few, are pension plans. And that was done away with back in the 70s when the 401k was invented. And a lot of companies stopped offering pensions. So short of Congress forcing companies to offer employees pensions again, I don't really see what they're going to be able to do to magically help people get to retirement. I think a lot of people need to start facing the reality that retirement is going to be a pipe dream for many people. It's just not something that's going to be possible for many Americans anymore, unless you really truly make a diligent effort to make it happen for yourself. And another thing to think about if you do make it to retirement and you are one of the lucky ones is where are you going to live in retirement? Because right now, one of the big question marks for a lot of Americans is, do I retire and stay where I'm living, or do I downsize and move to a smaller home, or do I start renting? Should I move into a retirement community? These are all types of questions that people ask themselves. And a lot of Americans right now are saying they're planning on aging in place. They're not going to sell their house. They're going to stay where they're at. And right off the bat, staying in your home might sound like the most affordable option for a lot of people, especially if your mortgage is paid off. But like we've seen here on the channel over and over again, expenses of being a homeowner can vary drastically from year to year, depending on your property taxes, depending on your insurance bill, depending on the maintenance that comes up for that year. If you do need to make an insurance claim, how much is your deductible? All of these things are going to come up at some point as a homeowner. I mean, the average homeowner in the United States spends anywhere between $4,000 to $22,000 a year just performing regular routine maintenance on the home, depending on the age, condition, size, and location of the house. And then you have your utility costs. You know, things like your gas, your heat, your water, sewer, all of those things can be variable. And that averages about almost $600 a month for a lot of people. Then you have insurance, you know. Average insurance premiums, $2,600 a year for a lot of Americans. And then if you need to hire at-home health care, that can be extremely expensive, costing about $78,000 per year. So the other option that a lot of people start considering when they start looking at these expenses is maybe I should move into a retirement community. That, of course, has its downsides as well. A retirement community has large entrance fees. Usually they'll charge you over $150,000, which is a one-time fee that you have to pay to move in. But if you decide it's not for you, then a portion of that is refundable, so it's not completely lost if you change your mind, but you are going to lose some of it. Then you have your ongoing monthly for these places as well, which average about $5,900 per month for assisted living. But if you need a nursing home with more extensive medical services, you're talking over $9,000 a month, close to $9,300 per month. So that can add up. But what these retirement communities do is they pretty much consolidate the expenses of living into a predictable monthly fee that covers your housing, your utilities, your amenities, and a lot of your health care. But I can see why a lot of people would choose to kind of forget about all that and just kind of wing it and see how it goes and try to age in place, because you're comfortable in your own home. You know more or less what your monthly expenses are already now. And you just are going to kind of take your chances, right? If things kind of explode and get out of control and the monthly expenses for your house start to get unaffordable, then you kind of address it when the time comes. But until that happens, you know, hey, I'm going to stay put. I'm going to live in my house. I already paid for it. This is the place for me. Some people actually get really lucky with the retirement villages, though. For example, one of my viewers, Ian, who always writes me emails from New Zealand, him and his wife, they actually retired to a retirement community in New Zealand. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment sort of deal with a kitchen and a garage. And they actually have fixed fees for life over there. They're kind of grandfathered in on this. He told me that new residents that are moving in no longer have fixed fees guaranteed, but they were lucky enough to be grandfathered in as long as they live at the property. And they're actually really happy living at this retirement community where everything's kind of handled for them and they can just focus on enjoying their life rather than maintaining a house in retirement and still having to deal with paying all these bills and figuring all that stuff out. So it is one of those things that's going to come down to your personal preference once you get to that stage in life, if you get lucky enough to even make it there at all. Because like I said, a lot of people might not even make it with the way things are going, guys, with how expensive everything is. And I'm not trying to be gloom and doom on this. I'm just being realistic. You know, if you're going to have any chance at making it to retirement, you cannot be in these categories that we talked about here. You cannot just have, you know, a couple $100,000 saved by the time you're in your mid-60s. It's just not going to cut it. The good news is if you are younger and you're ambitious, you can still make it happen. You do still have a chance. But if you're somebody older who has already kind of had their time and now you're facing retirement, well, you're going to have to try to make the best out of what you have. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I will see you in the next one.